Glasgow produced some scintillating rugby as they brush aside the lines. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. Some really good stuff from Glasgow in this one. The win had a massive effect on the game, but just having said that, Glasgow certainly played it a lot better than the Lions did. So Warriors, they start off a sustained period close to the Lions line. They go close a few times before Nathan MacLeod gets over to score. That's converted for 7 points to 0. Stafford McDowell then kicks a fantastic 50-22, and Glasgow, another good position, again playing that wind that's at the back in the first half really well. Very strong wind. Lions do well to first halt them all. They repel Glasgow's carries then as they go to the forwards. Then Lions get over the ball to win a penalty. But we have another sustained period close to the line, and Dobie gets over for Glasgow's second try. Really well constructed, that one as well. Good pace and handling in the build-up, compared for 14 points to 0. Then have Timo check as Glasgow go over in the left corner. No on-full decision. Looks like Horn and Creel probably held Dobie up. And yeah, they can't really see a grounding, so it's no try, and it is a dropout to the Lions, but the kick doesn't go very far because they're kicking into, again, a very strong wind. Dobie then gets over a few minutes later. Glasgow attacking on the edge of 22. Lions seem to be holding them, but then Dobie steps, fends, and goes through a gap over to score, converted for 21 points to 0. The Lions then, the restart, it actually crosses the 10-meter line, but it lands behind the kicker in their own half. Like that'll tell you how strong the wind actually was. It blew it all the way back from there, but it's play on because it did actually cross the plane of the 10-meter line. Glasgow then worked the ball into space on the left. Stain breaks out wide. Jordan puts Dobie into space, and he gives it to Horn, who scores the bonus point try, and that makes him Glasgow's record try scorer with 55 tries. And he overtook D.H. van der Merwe, the Canadian guy that played for Glasgow before. So, proud night for George Horn there, converted for 28 points to 0. Glasgow back again. Looks like they're going to move it wide, on the edge of the 22, but then Hastings, he sells a dummy, steps back inside, over to score, converted for 35 points to 0. And then, it looks like it's probably that's going to be half time, but Glasgow then get another chance pushing for another try. Stain goes to the bin for preventing a quick tap close to the line. Then Stewart goes over for Glasgow's sixth try, converted for 42 points to 0. Second half then, not as eventful as the first half. The Lions have the wind at their back, but I'm not sure anybody told them, certainly early on, that like very little kicks from them, to try and exploit the fact that, they're going to get a lot of distance on it, and Glasgow, would find it difficult as well, kicking back certainly against the wind. But you feel like also the Lions needed to find a way to slow down Glasgow's ball, because it was just on a play for George Horn for the whole of that first half. In the second half, they did better that way, but in attack, not offering enough. They did have a chance to kick to the corner, start of the second half, but they missed touch. Then Kyle Stain comes on a scissors move as Glasgow burst over the halfway line into the 22. He's Horn in support. Looks for all the world it's a certain try, but Lions scramble back. Kieran Horn, I don't know who else it was, but they managed to prevent them from getting over, and then they force a knock on. Lions then looking to run the ball out, and they're just stuck in their own half. And you're still wondering, why are they not kicking it? Like, turn that Glasgow defence and, play the game down the other end at least. And they do start doing that, in the last kind of 30 minutes or so, and Glasgow bring on most of their replacements for that final 30 minutes. Lions win a penalty just outside the 22. They go up the line, but they don't really take advantage again of the wind. They're just they've gone a few meters up, and that's it. You could have easily kicked. Don't head for the corner, obviously, because it's going to go dead. But kick maybe 10 or 15 meters short of the corner, and the wind might carry a bit, but you're still going to be pretty close. To about 5 to 10 meters out, and you're going to have a decent position, but they don't do that, and they go through phases. But first they knock it on, and then when they come again, then Dobie gets over the ball to win a penalty for Glasgow. Then Glasgow almost get the first score of the second half, but there's a forward pass that put George Horan away on the left, very clearly forward. Lions then, they're huffing and puffing for most of the half, but they just can't break down that Glasgow defence. Then Glasgow on the counter look more likely to score, and the game actually ends with them attacking into 22, but there's a knock-on, and we have no score in the second half. It's 42-0 full-time Glasgow win. Okay, so we're going to look at the stats, and then we'll briefly talk about each of the teams. So let me pull the stats up on the official website here. So starting with attack, 6 tries to 0 for Glasgow. All about the first half really, and their ability to not only play it wasn't just a case of let's just keep kicking it, and keep them pegged in their own half or their own 22. They kicked when they needed to, and they moved the ball when they needed to as well. And then, they trucked it up. Lots of variation in their play as well. And, it led to some brilliant tries from them. Possession then 66% to 34 for Glasgow, because they held onto the ball in the first half when they had the wind, and then they held the ball in the second half when the Lions were basically struggling, especially the kind of 40 to 60 minutes kind of time when the Lions are kind of struggling to get out of their own half. Clean breaks then 8 for the Warriors and 2 for the Lions, and Glasgow got a few tries on the back of those as well. Defenders beaten at 36 to 13, so massive amount of defenders beaten for Glasgow. Offloads 14 for Glasgow, 4 for Lions. Glasgow moving the ball very quickly, especially in the first half, where the Lions, all they were doing was make the tackle and spread out in that line across the field, and nobody really going in there to contest the ball or to prevent offloads either. So Glasgow finding it very easy to find a man with their offloads. Onto defence then, territory 62% for Glasgow and 38% for the Lions. So again, the win might have been with the Lions in the second half, but they certainly didn't play as much of the game in the Warriors half as the Warriors did the opposite way in the first half. Number of tackles made then, and kind of telling here again, 101 for Glasgow, 204 for Lions, so double the amount of tackles. And then missed tackles, 12 for Glasgow, 36 for Lions, so 3 times as many missed tackles. And tackle success, 87 for Glasgow, again in that kind of that band where you want to be, 85 to 87 for a decent or passable defensive effort. And then 79% for the Lions is very poor. That's down where we saw Leinster against the Sharks, and their defence wasn't great, but the scramble was good. Lions basically scramble tonight was non-existent. Turnovers 1 then, 9 for Glasgow and 11 for the Lions. Actually coming back on the scramble, the one time they scrambled well was that one I was talking about where Kieran Horn, another guy, got back to stop that certain try, but other than that, not much scramble there. But turnovers 1, Lions winning the turnover battle, but Glasgow looked the more threatening on turnover ball overall. Kicking then, kicks retained 2 for Glasgow and 3 for the Lions, but not many contestable kicks in this game because, either you were playing with the wind and therefore you were kicking more for distance and to move, where the game was being played, or you were playing into the wind and you weren't kicking all that much. You were kicking, you're going to kick low. You weren't going to put up contestable ones. Penalties conceded then 7 for Glasgow, 11 for the Lions. So Glasgow will be happy to keep that down in single figures. Lions definitely need to improve on that side of things. Then onto players. So Adam Hastings, 17 points from the game. He's looking really good, honestly, at 10 there. He's strong, got a good step. He's good passing range as well, and he's kicking his points too. Then tries, Jamie Dobie with 2 for, Glasgow. Could have had a hat trick if there would have, there might have been another angle where he was held up or not held up out wide. Wasn't to be though. And obviously no points for the Lions. So Frankie Horn, gets selected. I guess simply because, I'm going to say it's because he put in that try saver. Then successful carries, Vailanu for Glasgow, very good. Lots of trucking up the middle, but making yards as well, and then getting the Lions on the back foot. And from there, it was spread, and then the backs did their thing. For Lions, then Nico Stain, decent carries from him, but again, not enough joined up thinking from the Lions, really. Clean breaks, Jamie Dobie with 2, and then Skuman with 1 for the Lions. Defenders beaten, Adam Hastings with 6. Again, stepping, and also just the power in his carries too. And Kewan Horn with 3 for the Lions. Meters made then, Kyle Stain, 96, looked very effective, especially out in the wide channels. And then Gianni Lombard with 50 for the Lions. Offloads, Dobie with 2, and Ruan Benter with 1. So, Dobie, he got his couple of tries, but also, being provider or setting other people up as well. Then number of tackles, Ewan Ferry with 12 for the Warriors, and then is Intala Bakanye, I always struggle with his name, with 20 for the Lions. So, really putting it in defensively there, but we didn't really see, again, it's not his fault, but not much of him kind of going forward with, strong carries into 22, etc. Getting those hard meters close to the line, that kind of stuff. But nobody, it's not just him, nobody on the line side of things did that. Turnovers 1 then, Gregor Brown with 2, and JC Pretorius with 4 for the Lions. So let's talk briefly about each of the teams. We start with the Lions, the losing team. Struggled very much in that first half with just the relentless attack from Glasgow. And I think that's something that Glasgow have certainly improved in recent years, is they don't take the foot off the gas as much as they used to. Now, they didn't score any points in the second half, but it wasn't for the want of trying. They were the ones who were providing the threat. Lions really struggled with the conditions in the first half in terms of, being stuck in their own half. Didn't seem to have a strategy of how they're going to exit. And because of that, then played most of that game, whether it was in possession or in defense, in and around their own 22, and conceded 6 tries. Second half then, on attack, they spent, maybe the first 10 minutes or so trying to run the ball from their own 22 when they had a massive wind at their back, and, the ability or the potential to be kicking the ball down the field, and then, play the game in the Glasgow half and try that. They did do that for much of the last 30 minutes, but very little penetration in attack. You know, again, they kind of get to inside the 22 or the edge of the 22, and then Glasgow were just kind of soaking up their their carries and stuff, and not really letting them make too many meters in there. And, you know, it was across the whole team really that they didn't seem to have any more ideas other than putting the ball through the hands and trucking it up. You know, we weren't seeing like, there was one attempt at kind of kicking behind. Other than that, you know, not too many, no grubber kicks in, no little chips, no crossfield kicks, you know, no kind of variety from them, even though they were struggling very much to break down the Glasgow attack. And then also the shape of their own, or the Glasgow defence, sorry, the shape of their attack as well. You know, it was very kind of telegraphed in terms of who was going to be the next carrier. Not very many, you know, dummy runners. And if there were, not really kind of, you know, hitting their lines with real conviction that, you know, Glasgow were going to buy it. So Glasgow looked very comfortable in defence, honestly, in that second half. And yeah, the Lions, they, you know, started the season so well. They've really fallen away now, and I think after this now, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to get themselves into the top 8 and into the playoffs. And I think they're going to be one of the teams over the next couple of rounds. Like after Europe is done, we're going to have, you know, or the next round of Europe, sorry, is done next week. I think Lions are going to be one of those teams that are going to, you know, we're going to see teams falling away from that fight for the top 8, and they're going to be one of them. But they're not going to be the only team. There's a couple of teams who are kind of in poor form at the wrong time of the season. Glasgow then, complete opposite, like coming into great form when we're coming towards the pointy end of the season, and, you know, defending champions, and, you know, they've got to be feeling confident now that they're going to put up a real defense of the title as well. You know, it looks like they're probably, you know, going to finish second on the log unless they mess up now. Like, it's kind of theirs to lose, I would say, although the Bulls certainly will, you know, keep that pressure on them all the way. But, you know, excellent performance today, especially in that first half, you know, taking the tries and making, you know, the Lions defend so much. Then in the second half, then when they were up against it in terms of the wind, they looked more threatening, you know, on counter attack and stuff like that. You know, once they got the ball out of that width, the space was there, and even though they were kind of at times flooding the channel with numbers, you know, they weren't getting in each other's way, and they were able to kind of, you know, again, using, you know, switches, dummy runners, etc., draw and pass, offloads, that kind of thing, make those meters out in the wide channels, and then, you know, strike back inside as well. So really good performance from them, and they're looking in good stead for the rest of the season.